Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. I want to begin by apologizing for not making videos. I had a dream this morning. A beloved brother of mine came to me, kissed me on the forehead, and told me to make a video. So bismillah, let's start inshallah. The subject today is about debt, people that have fallen into debt or that are struggling with debt or that are feeling the weight and the burden of the debt. The Prophet ﷺ, he came to the masjid one time. He saw a Sahabi, very sad, sitting there at a time when it was not a time for prayer. And so he said, "What's the matter with you? What's going on?" He said, "Ya Rasulullah, I have a lot of debt." So he taught him a dua. He said, "Say this dua." He taught him this dua. He said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, say, "Allahumma inni a'udhu bika." Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you. Min al-hammi wal-hazan, from sadness and grief. وأعوذ بك من اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن وأعوذ بك من العجز والكسل. I seek refuge in you from being incapacitated, being helpless, and from being lazy. وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل. And I seek refuge in you from cowardice, indecisiveness, and from being miserly. وأعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. And I seek refuge in you from being burdened and overpowered by debt and from being overpowered by the anger of the people. So he taught him this dua, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he told him, seek, and crave that which benefits you, and put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if your debt was as high as the mountains of Uhud, Allah will pay it off for you. Allah will pay it off for you. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught him this dua, and he was, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reassuring him and reorienting him to know that, Allah is in control ultimately. And all of these things, it's a test. And so the test is for you to turn back to Allah. And so when we are tested with these difficulties, it's a sign that Allah loves you whenever He tests you with these difficulties. Some people, they'll say, "Oh, how could you get yourself in this situation? You don't know this is haram, that's haram, if you die with that, and this will happen, that." Allah said He will pay it off for you. You're a believer. You believe in Allah. The Prophet ﷺ told us, whoever has iman, whoever has whatever obligations they have missed, Allah will pay them off. This is part of forgiveness, is to pay off the debt. Now, some of the people will say, "Oh, it's all the haqq that's between you and Allah, but it doesn't include the haqq that's between you and the servants of Allah." Allah will pay them off. Allah can do whatever He pleases. So don't lose hope in that respect. But here, there's a stronger aspect here in this hadith that is directing our attention to self-improvement. Because one thing that can hold us down is sadness and grief. And for a believer to be captivated and to be held captive and hostage by sadness and grief, it's not befitting a believer. So you have to seek refuge in Allah from being removed from that state. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazan. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from sadness and grief. Don't fall into it. It's a trap. And it's a downward spiral. If you go into it, it can go deeper and deeper and deeper. And Allah is infinite. So if you want to experience that, there is no end to this. People kill themselves with sadness and grief. So get out from that and recognize that Allah's mercy is encompassing. Rahmati wasi'at kulla shay, right? So get into experiencing Allah's mercy. So get out of sadness and grief. Seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So part of the fruits of sadness and grief is when somebody finds himself in that state, they find that there's something in psychology called learned helplessness, where a person starts to surrender in a very negative way. You're surrendering to Allah in a positive way is you accept the qadr of Allah. But there are some people who will surrender in a sense that they say, "Oh, I can't do it." And that's it. They set up this belief, "I can't do it," and they're stuck with it. And they have a saying, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. Because your limitations and your potential is as far as you allow yourself to go. So as believers, we have himma, right? We have a spiritual aspirations, we have our goals, and our aim is high. Prophet ﷺ told us, if you seek Jannah, ask Allah to give you Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la, the highest. Go big or go home, as they say. So Learned helplessness is a state a person can walk into where or fall into. It's a hal in which you limit yourself. And even though you have the ability, you have, so you say, I can't do it. Laziness or procrastination, all of these things, it's a form of that. And underneath it, sometimes it's this belief that maybe I can't do it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He teaches us, you don't work through yourself. If you rely on yourself, you're done. You're destroyed. You can't do anything. But if you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ, Allah is able to do all things. So let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala work through you. And whoever relies on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has peace of mind and has relaxation and ease, because they see that لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. It's Allah doing everything. You're not doing anything. But if you rely on yourself, then we have difficulty and burdens and heaviness, right? So why do you want to get out of debt? Why do you want to make money? Why do you want to have financial freedom? All these things. Why? Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-jubni wal-bukhl. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from cowardice and from miserliness. We as Muslims, we are told to be generous people. We are told to give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, shaitan, he comes and threatens you with poverty. Right? He says, oh, you're going to give, you're going to have, what about your family? What about this? What about your bills? Okay, so if what you're making is not enough for you to be comfortable and to spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then make more. Simple, right? Make more money. How do you do that? Seek refuge in Allah from being miserly. Seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from being indecisive. Because anything that you gain, anything that you earn, of course it's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but there is a lesson to be learned there, that there is the decisions that you have to make. And the decisions that you make sometimes are difficult decisions, so you cannot be afraid. You have to let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide your course. And when you make a decision, you stick by it and you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want to start a company? Start a company. And follow it through. Don't become lazy. Don't become complacent. Right? You want to do something else to get yourself out of these situations? Then do that. But whatever you have to do, as long as it's within the Sharia, within the halal and the haram, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help is with you. Allah will help you. He will pay off whatever debt you have. Don't worry. وَمِنْ غَلَبَةِ الدَّيْنِ وَقَهْرِ الرِّجَالِ. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from being overpowered by or being buried or burdened with debt, and from being exploited by men. When you have debt, there are people, they fear Allah, there are people who don't fear Allah. We have a saying, fear those who fear Allah and fear those who don't fear Allah. Why fear those who fear Allah? Because Allah is on their side. Whatever you do with them, if you mess up, Allah has their back. But those who don't fear Allah, they will exploit you. They will take advantage of you. People lose their homes because they get into contracts of, with debt that, they cannot uphold. So when you find yourself in a situation where you're being exploited, people are taking your wealth, they're destroying you, your assets, your wealth, your livelihood. La ilaha illallah, right? So seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in whatever situation you find yourself, whether it's laziness, or you're at the end of it, there's nothing you can do. Now you're at the mercy of people. When you start seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you seek that which benefits you, Allah will take you out of all calamities. When you have difficulty, who can remove the difficulty except Allah? When you have challenges, who can remove these challenges except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In ultimate reality, we know this. An-Nafi' is a name of Allah. Ad-Dar is also a name of Allah. The one who benefits and the one who brings harm. These are all Allah's names. So all you're experiencing is difficulties and challenges that brings you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can say, Ya Allah, I need your help. When you say, Ya Allah, I need your help, you've passed the test. Because the whole thing was about being tested. And if you're not being tested, there's something wrong. Like my beloved brother, he told me a story. He said a woman, she had a proposal, so she got married to this person, and she noticed this person never complains about anything. Like nothing is wrong in his life. He's living a flawless, life. Not even a headache. And so she started to get worried, because Allah says, Alif Lam Mim, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Did the people really think they're going to say, Amanna, I believe in Allah, and they're not going to be tested? right? So this person is not being tested. Yutraku, he's been left. So she started to worry. So she said, maybe if I stay with him, I'll be doomed. So she went and she asked for divorce. She said, I want a divorce from you. He said, why? He said, I just want a divorce. He said, well, I love you. Part of my love for you is for you to be happy. So if you're not happy with me, let's go to the Qadi. On the way to the Qadi, he tripped on a rock, fell down, hurt his head. She said, I don't want a divorce anymore. And he said, what's going on? He said, because I saw that you're never tested and never gone through anything, so I thought maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't love you. But now that I see you fell down and bumped your head, La ilaha illallah, Allah, He loves you. So I want to be with you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with you and never against you. Know that strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than a weak believer. And in all of them there is khair. The Prophet ﷺ told us this. A weak believer, when difficulties come to them, they say, this is the qadr of Allah. This is what Allah has willed. So we face it and we are content with it. A strong believer will say, I am the qadr of Allah. I will do whatever I can to get myself out of this, because you are the qadr of Allah. You are the Khalifa of Allah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.